Hello everybody, we are live here today and I am doing a facial on my wonderful client, my male client here. So what I'm going to do today, I want to talk a little bit about, do a skin analysis here. You're going to watch me do a facial on my client. My client here is somebody that has suffers with rosacea, and so occasionally, foods and different things that can irritate and create heat and inflammation in the body will certainly come out on the skin. He's doing really, really well with his skin right now, but it is cold, it's the winter months, and this is always very challenging on somebody that has a more delicate skin, because we are dealing with, wind, and wind is just so hard, especially with anybody that has a little, excuse me, a little bit of eczema or dermatitis, rosacea, because it has that ruddiness. There's the pustules, the little breakouts that can happen, but there's also the dry skin. So it's something that we always want to be incredibly mindful of when we are working on somebody that has a delicate skin. Winter months, we want to hydrate the skin. We don't want to heat the skin up too much, because rosacea, there is a lot of heat already. So you always want to make sure that we are doing everything that's soothing, cooling, calming. And cooling, the word cooling is a big, big word in this, because we want everything to be very cool, very calming, very hydrating, and yet we still need to do some extractions. So that being said, we're going to get started with our treatment. I'm starting with using my gentle cleanser, which is a confidence cleanser. I will be answering some questions a little bit later on once I put on the mask, but for the moment we will be going straight through with the treatment. Now this is a really gentle cleanser, and you need gentle cleansers, especially in the winter months and for people that have a compromised skin barrier. And rosacea, eczema, dermatitis, any of these types of conditions, psoriasis, this is all of these conditions do leave the barrier compromised. Stress, all these types of emotional things that we go through too affect this type of skin. So because Mike has a beard here, a little bit a close crop beard, but we want to make sure that we really clean in the beard area well. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use warm towels as we take off the cleanser. I just sort of want to really get in underneath those whiskers and make sure that we are really cleaning well underneath here, just because it's a good thing to do. Okay, so I have my warm towels, and I'm just going to place them on the face. Just flipping over my towels. Okay. Now I'm going to use the purifying mask as my exfoliant today, because the purifying mask does not have glycolic in it, but it does have the papaya enzyme. Papuan. And because we are dealing with somebody whose skin can easily get irritated, we do not want to do our strong actives in the beginning of our treatment. We just did a full 2 weeks of a compromised skin barrier on my Instagram channel. If you are interested in watching the that 2 week, getting all the tips for a compromised skin barrier, it's a challenge. So it takes you back to the very beginning. If you are somebody that has a compromised skin barrier, you want to make sure that you're really being careful with how you work with the skin, and into building it back, there are certain steps that you need to do, and it's really important to not be aggressive with your cleanser. If you're somebody that uses toners, you want to make sure that you're really somebody that is going back to basics and building up that skin barrier so that the skin can be healthy and it can accept all your treatment products. And you know, a lot of people with oily skin, I talk about this a lot, but a lot of people with oily skin, they're an oily skin with a really dry surface, and that's that dry surface does not allow oil to get out. So it's really important to keep the skin soft and supple, and a lot of oily skins have a compromised skin barrier, which creates such a problem. You know, the sebum underneath, it thickens and hardens and then causes those little sebaceous hyperplasia. So you've got to keep your skin, your outer layer, you've got to keep it soft and supple so that everything can get out, including oil. And oil, bacteria and dead cells is what makes up a blackhead. So you want to make sure that your surface of your skin is really soft and supple. So now what we're doing is I'm working in the purifying mask, and the reason why I'm using this one today instead of the exfoliating mask is because this has a little bit of the papaya enzyme Papuan, and what that does is it absorbs dead cells. Like an alpha hydroxy acid, the papaya enzyme also absorbs dead cells, and it's really nice for someone whose skin is more sensitive. I don't want this to dry on the skin, so I'm going to wet my hands and just keep working it in just a little bit, massaging it in with a little water on my hands. And again, this is a gentle exfoliant that doesn't have any acids in it. And somebody that has rosacea, because rosacea is something that there is no cure for it, but there are certainly things that you can do in, you know, with your foods, with, you know, your topical products that are going to help maintain and just keep it at bay. And that's what you want. You don't want it to flare up, so you've got to use products, and you have to use eat foods that are not inflammation foods. And some of the inflammation foods that we know are a real culprit for making somebody that has rosacea, making their skin worse and making it flare up, are going to be the foods like your tomatoes and your bell peppers, your nightshades, potatoes, eggplants, spicy, and wine, you know, alcohol. These things are real stimulants and create a lot of inflammation in the tissue, and it's going to come out on the skin. So you're going to notice more ruddiness, especially with spicy foods. The spicy is one of the worst of all. Okay, so we've worked that in. That's our exfoliant. Now, again, this papaya enzyme in the purifying mask, what it does is it absorbs dead cells without it being an acid and without it being anything too aggressive. And with somebody that like rosacea, somebody that might have a little eczema, dermatitis, you don't want to be using acids on the skin as an exfoliant for that. And you know, in any facial with anybody that has sensitive skin, you don't want to use a strong, aggressive exfoliant anyway, because you don't want to create a sensitive slate on the skin just as you're starting your facial, because then it's going to really influence what you can put on the skin after that. And it may, at one point, you might want to use something a little bit stronger on your client. but you won't be able to because you've already set up a sensitive slate. So it's important to be mindful and think about everything you're doing on your client and what's important for your client's skin. And with my model here that I have on the table, he has rosacea, and he also has that combination skin. So he has blackheads around the nose, minimal anywhere else. So he's sort of, not that oily really, but his skin can easily flare up. It can easily get dry and irritated. So, you have to just sort of be mindful of all of these things in what you're doing to make sure that you are doing the absolute best treatment for your client's skin. Now, of course, you don't want to let anything set tight on the skin. And this mask, if I wasn't adding water to it, it would have set tight. But because when somebody's skin it can, flare up and get a little red, and rosacea is, on active, some days more than others, you just want to make sure that you're not doing anything to irritate. So if you dry the skin too much and it requires too much rubbing to get it off, then that's going to irritate the skin. So let me bring this on over. I'm going to bring the camera over closer so you can see what I'm doing a little bit here. I just want to pick it up, show you sort of, and from upside here, just some different. Of course, it's the camera's, I'm just picking the light up, so it's a little wobbly, my apologies, but I just sort of wanted to give you a different angle there. You're looking front on and really being able to see what I'm doing. So, so that being said, we are going to then move to the next step. So we've cleansed the skin, we've exfoliated the skin, and I might see a little bit of still of the exfoliant here. Just going back with a cool towel here, just around the edges. Make sure we've got it out of the beard area there too. Now the next thing I'm going to put on the skin is going to be the healing gel, and this is mostly aloe vera. It's about 97% aloe vera, and I'm putting a big pump of that on the skin, and it's going to be the next thing that goes on the skin. This is a wonderful gel to put on, after guys shave, if you're doing waxing on the body anywhere, on the face, it's always a really great thing to put on. Okay, so we've got the healing gel on. The next step is going to be the eye gel. My eye gel. Now a lot of people forget about this part of the eye when you are treating the eye area, and that upper eyelid, sort of just up under the eyebrow itself, can get really, really sun damaged and dehydrated. So this is an area up here that you do not want to forget about. You want to make sure you're being very mindful of that. And again, make sure you're not using too much eye cream or eye gel around the eyes when you're doing your facial, because what can happen is it can, get up into the eye, and then it's going to be uncomfortable for your client. So you don't need a lot, and you certainly want to be careful when you are massaging around their eyes. you're watching your fingers where you're going. You want to make sure you do not go over and touch those eyelashes, because then you can start, you know, to create a sensitive eye. And that's really important. You don't want to be doing that. So a lot of you, when you massage, and I've watched many students massaging the skin a lot of the time, you're not sort of, you've got to pay attention to these things. These things are very important, is that you want to be very careful of where your fingers are going, and you're keeping an eye on everything. You have to have control of your fingers, and that be for around the eyes, be around the nose area, because it's uncomfortable if your client is getting cream in the nostrils. You want to be careful around the mouth area. All of these things are very, very important. So again, just be very careful. If someone's a little puffy, you're going to be taking the, you're going to be massaging out like this, away from the tear ducts. If somebody is not puffy, you can absolutely go in a complete circle like this, but do make sure you are not getting your creams too close to the eyes, because you're going to be spoiling your facial for your client if you do that. It's very important that you pay attention to what you're doing and really focus on every step, and it has to have a purpose for your client and, you know, their skin type, and you have to be very mindful and at the same time very thorough. So that being said, we put on our eye product. Now, as I said before, my client's skin is very reactive. He has rosacea. So we're going to be just using very gentle, very soothing, calming things. The healing gel, I put that on the skin. The next product that I'm going to be using is my Q flavonoid, which is my serum. And this is a bioflavonoid, so it does have arnica, it has vitamin K, it has vitamin P in it. It's a complex. So it's really very soothing and very calming, and it's one of the most calming serums. It's great for circulation, of course. Anything that has arnica and vitamin K in it is wonderful for circulation. So we just want to make sure that we are working this into the skin, and this is going to be really nice for him having rosacea. Now, the nice thing about this particular serum is this is one serum that you can absolutely use up close around the eye area, and a lot of serums you cannot. A lot of skincare products you cannot, but this one you can. It really helps with somebody that has dark circles. It's also a brightener, so if somebody has a few little age spots, little sun damage, brown spots around the eye area, this is going to be a brightener, and it's going to help lighten those little brown spots around that area. So this is a really nice product to be able to use. And again, I'm using on my trolley the Rejuve line. It's a line I've used for 30 years. You know, I've been in this business for 46 years, almost 46 years this year. And so this has very much been my life. So doing facials is certainly not something that I just started doing. It's definitely been my life. So we are working in the Q flavonoid. Again, it's the Rejuve line. And this is, I'm using this one. I mean, there are a lot of great products out there, but you want to make sure that your products are working for you. You know, your products, they have to make a difference. And if your skin is a little bit compromised in any way, you know, the first thing I'm going to say to you is make sure you correct your cleanser. You're using more gentle cleanser. Second, I'm going to say, you know, cut out the actives for the moment, get your skin back to be healthy, and then just slowly introduce your actives. But your actives are going to be your acids, which are your glycolic, lactic, malic, tartaric, citrus, mandelic acid, azelaic acid. They're all acids. Your retinoids is another one. You know, you need to sometimes just really stop using them, especially in the winter months. The winter months means, you know, less actives and less exfoliation, because the dry weather is, it makes the skin sensitive. So you don't want to be over exfoliating. You do not want to be using a lot of actives on the skin. That is just going to be detrimental and can cause definite skin barrier compromise. Okay, we've worked in our Q flavonoid. Now you can see I'm working in each product as we go. And you can see just by working in the Q, you can see how it's totally stained. You know, it's very yellow, brownish in color. That's the flavonoids. You can, see it's definitely stained, but you can see how much calmer his skin is just working in what I've done. And, he was quite red after the, a little red after the cleansing, but you can really see how much calmer his skin is now that we have stopped. We've worked in the healing gel, we've worked in some of the Q flavonoid, and just how much better his skin looks just from doing that. He's got an eye gel on. The next product we're going to do, again, it's designed especially for his face, right? We're designing our facial especially for our client's face, which means what are we doing? We are customizing our treatments. And that's what's important when you are doing a facial. You have to customize your treatment for your client's face. So here we are, we're going to go back here. I'm going to get my hydrating mask. This is what I use as my massage cream. It's super soothing, calming, and it's what I love to use especially in the cooler months, but I use it all year long as my massage cream. It's just a really amazing product. And you can see I use quite a lump, right? And it's going to really help improve the hydration here without it being too clogging and congesting. So with my model, I've turned off the heater on the bed. Someone with rosacea and heat, you do not want heat on the table. You also do not want to be using steam. If you were going to use a little bit of steam, you could maybe for a few minutes, but the arm of the steam would have to be a long distance away from your client's face. So here we are, we're working in the super soothing. Now, again, remember, we're dealing with a skin that is a combination skin, few little blackheads around the nose area, which we're going to extract at a later date. And he is, he has rosacea. So the rosacea, which is what we call a subcondition, is what we are really paying great attention to because we are in the winter months. It's cold, it's windy. You do not want to be doing anything that is going to be irritating the skin. So we want to be incredibly mindful of that. That's the number one thing that is a priority here, is making sure that we're doing everything to support the ruddiness, to support the sensitivity of his skin, but still just keep his skin healthy and help it get through these cooler months. So we're going to do our massage now. I'm just going to be working this into the skin. And this also means the type of facial moves you're doing on your client are not going to be things that are creating a lot of heat. So you don't want to be doing things facial moves that are going to be where there's a lot of friction, because a skin that already has inflammation, that's a little sensitive, you don't want to be doing things that are going to be creating. So you're going to see my moves are going to be a little bit slower, they're going to be a little bit longer, and we're not doing any of the pinching, we're not doing anything that's going to create irritation or try to sort of stimulate the skin. We do not need stimulation here. We need soothing, calming, cooling. A lot of the time people are very afraid to touch areas when they're irritated. and a little bit red. And when you know it's something like eczema or dermatitis, rosacea, it's not contagious, so you don't want to be afraid of it, but you do need to make sure that you are being mindful of what you're doing on the areas on your client's face. Okay, now I'm doing just a little bit on his scalp, because often when people have irritation and a lot going on their face, you don't want to be doing a bunch of massage on their face. So we are doing a little bit here on his scalp. Once you've touched the hair and you've been massaging the head, you do not want to take your fingers back onto his face. You do not go from hair to face. Okay, we have warm towels here again. I'm going to cool those down a little bit. I'm going to start on the décolleté with these warm towels. I'm going to flip the warm towel over, so now we have the clean side of the warm towel on the face, and now the towels are a little bit cooler, which is what we want for the face. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to do some extractions, and he just has a little bit of extractions, not too much going on there, but we are going to be focusing on extractions around the nose area where he needs them. Putting on my gloves, wondering what I'm doing. Here they are. I'm allergic to latex, so I cannot wear latex gloves. It's really good to, if you are somebody that wears gloves, and a lot of people wear them during massage, if that's kind of what you feel comfortable, you want to make sure the type of fabric of the glove you're using, that your client's not allergic to it, because for someone who is highly allergic to latex, as I am, just putting something on my skin for 5 seconds in a latex will leave me with a mark for a week, and an itchy irritation. So you've got to be so mindful. If you are a glove user, you have to make sure, especially if you're massaging the skin with gloves on and you're using them throughout the whole facial, you do have to make sure that you're using gloves that your client is not allergic to, and that's a really important factor. So do be mindful of that, guys, if you are somebody that is a glove user during the full facial. Now I'm going to be putting my eye little goggles have been in the sterilizer. They're a little bit warm, so what I'm doing, I'm just going to be putting just some cotton pads here on the eye first before I put the goggles on the skin, and that way they're a little bit warm. And again, you want to always be mindful of everything that you're doing on your client, that you don't want anything to be too hot. And a skin is sensitive, so it definitely feels heat, where other parts of the body, of course, it's not a problem. So we're just going to look on over here now and do some extractions here. And my model's skin is very, very clean. Just has a little bit irritated from his rosacea, but other than that, I also know that he rides a motorbike, so wearing a helmet is going to make the skin a little bit more sensitive and irritated as well. But his skin is really very, very clean, so he's doing a great job of taking care of it at home. You always want to make sure that your fingers are tightly wrapped around your tissue so that you can see what you're doing. That's very important. A lot of people are very messy with their finger wraps when it comes to extractions, and that therefore doesn't allow you to see what you're working on a lot of the time. So blackheads can get very close up here by the nose area, so you want to make sure that you're really you're able to maneuver your iPad around to be able to make sure you're getting sort of close up by the eye area. Now you definitely don't want to be doing any suction devices on a skin like my model's, because he has those capillaries that are close to the surface, but also the irritation. You just want to stay away from suction devices. They can irritate the skin more too, and on a more mature skin, like my own skin, suction devices can stretch the skin. So if you're going to be doing it, you've got to really make sure you're holding the skin very tight, and you have to be very careful. But suction devices are not always a huge plus for somebody that's skin is irritated. You don't want to be using it on that type of skin, or if they're a mature skin, you want to be very mindful of just how you're working on that skin type. All right, so these pads would have cooled down a little bit now. I'm just maneuvering, taking those pads away from the eyes. I just want to be able to double check here close by the eye area, make sure that I've got everything clean with the blackheads and that we've done a really good job with that. So, okay, the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting on a little bit of a lotion onto the skin right now. This one has a very small amount of the AHA in it, and it is just a light little lotion, so it's not anything that's too strong, and he will not feel tingling even on his skin, but it just is a nice cleaner to use on the skin after you've done some extractions. Okay, so we put that on there now. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on a little bit more of the healing gel, and I'm going to do a little bit of cryo on my model right now. Okay, I'm just going to get my cryo out of the freezer, and we are going to be doing some cryo on his skin right now. So I will be right back. I'm not stopping this live. We're going to keep going all the way through. The cryo sticks here. I keep mine in the freezer. The fridge is not cold enough, so your cryo sticks, you want to keep them in the freezer. I'm now putting a little healing gel on my sticks, and we are going to, you want to make sure you let your client know that you're putting something very cold on their face so they are prepared. Okay, we're just going to do that for a short amount of time. Okay, so we've done our cryo, and the next thing we're going to do is going to put a mask on the skin. And this one here, I mean, we can go a couple of different ways. We could use the herbal mask, which is what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to lay gauze on top of it because I do not want it to set tight. You don't want to have anything too tight on the skin when you have a skin that's very sensitive. So we are going to go very light with our mask, but we are also going to make sure that I put dampened gauze on over top just to allow the mask to stay wet and not dry completely, because I do not want that clay masks. That's the great thing about a clay mask. You could add something to it more to make it hydrating. You can put wet gauze on over top of it so that it does not set tight. Now, as you can see, I like to use my fingers for everything. I have a lot more control with that. I also working in a salon and a spa, you want to make sure that you clean everything very well, and when you're using utensils and tools, you've got to make sure that you allow the good 20 minutes. It needs to be sterilizing, or just I prefer to use things that are disposable. So my sponges, I don't use mask brushes because everything has got to be cleaned. And unless you're throwing them out after each client, you need to make sure that you are cleaning them thoroughly. But everything carries bacteria, and the nice thing about when you can use your fingers is that, of course, washing your hands is all equally as important. So these things are what's important here. So we're putting the mask on the skin, and we're putting it out here. It's nice to remember to put the mask on over here by the ear. Okay, so we have that now on his skin, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, using warm towels here as my hand cleaner from the hot cabbie, which also has the light in it, so it just sterilizes the very outer parts of the towels, outer part of anything that's in there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of eye gel around his eyes again. I'm going to be putting on some eye pads over his eyes, and then we are going to be putting the gauze on. So again, just a little bit of eye gel around the eye area here. Just like that, and now we're going to be putting some pads on over his eyes. Now these are the little gauze cotton pads that open out, and I like to use them very much as my eye pads because they're stretchy. So you can take a pad and you can sort of really stretch them out, and then they cover the eye very nicely here. I did put a little bit of healing gel on mine. Again, it's that aloe base gel, and that is very comforting. Okay, so now what we've got our mask on the skin. I want to put gauze, dampened gauze on over top of it. I'm going to get some cool, clean water, and we're going to be putting on some dampened gauze. And this is my gauze. It's a beautiful gauze. Again, it's the same as the iPad gauze, so it stretches. And, you know, it's a very dense gauze, and I really like working with this gauze. So I'm just going to get some clean water, and we are going to put dampened gauze over top. Okay, I've got some clean water here, and I'm going to just open up my gauze. You can either tear it all the way through or portion it, and I'm just going to tear them all the way through here. Again, stretching my gauze, tearing it like this, as I don't want it to be, I want it to be cool water going on top. Okay, and we now have our dampened gauze. And as I open this up, we're going to be laying this across the mask. And this is going to prevent the mask. Now I've got my clean edge and I've got my edge that I tore. So the frayed edge, you do not want to have that areas like around the nose where the little fibers could irritate and cause, sort of make it ticklish for your clients. So you want to again be mindful of that. But again, we have our clean side up here, our torn side under here. The clean side is what we want against the nose area, and clean side again. Now this extra one here, I'm just going to wrap this into, just fold it over into 3 pieces. I'm putting that across the eye area again. I'm going to put infrared on my client just for a few minutes because it's very healing. I'm putting my goggles on again. Now remember, we've got eye pads on. We've got a couple of layers of this gauze on. We've got our goggles on over top. I'm not putting the light directly down on his eyes. I'm going to put it back here behind, going onto the face. And it's just very healing. Infrared is very different from red LED lights. Infrared works, it's deeper, and it's just incredibly healing. So I do like to use it a little bit on certain skin conditions. Obviously you don't want anything that's going to be hot on your client. We've just done our cryo. We've also just put damp and cold gauze on, or cool gauze. So we want to do something that is just a little bit, and as I said, the reason I like infrared is it's very healing. So I'm going to have it at quite a distance, but you'll be able to see it there. It's probably a good, probably 2.5 feet from his face, from behind here. And I'm just putting it back here. I'm going to leave that on the skin. Now, normally while this is on the face, I would do a foot massage. So at this point, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I'm just going to move myself over and have a look and see if there's any questions here that you guys are asking while our mask is on our client's face. All right, let me just pull this back here. You can see more, and I'm just going to scoot my chair down and see if there are some questions. Okay, let me just move on up here a little bit further. Of course, I can't see anything at the moment. Okay, let me up this a tab. I just do want to be able to see what I'm looking at here. Fantastic. Okay. All right, I'm just going to go back and see if there are any questions and see what I'm looking at. Hello, everybody. Okay. Okay, hello. Gosh, I don't know why I can't see very well. I feel like I need glasses. Hello, always happy to see you. Hello, thank you. Why are you avoiding this lip and chin area? Why am I avoiding the lip and chin? Well, because I've cleaned that area with a cleanser and sponges, but when you have whiskers, there is only but so much you can do with whiskers. It is not my area of concern. We've cleaned it. I don't put mask on the lip and chin where there is whiskers. I don't do that. It's, as I said, underneath the skin, underneath his lip and beard is actually really good, but his area up here is where he suffers with the rosacea. But in massaging, I just don't, I work the skin, you know, we clean it. I don't really do an abundance in that area when I'm doing a facial on a man. I tend to make sure I've cleaned it really well, which is kind of what we did in the beginning, using the cleanser and the warm towels and just sort of getting in there. But, you know, once you start getting creams and different things into those areas, it's definitely needed in some ways, and his beard area would have a little bit of the hydrating mask and that in it as I was massaging in. But other than that, it doesn't require an abundance underneath there. The most important thing is that when a guy is washing his face, that he's really getting in and cleaning that area. It's a very well protected area, and you know, if you're using certain modalities, I did not use the cryo sticks on that area either. But as I said, it's an area that I'm more about cleaning, because hair is a protectant, so you want to get under and really make sure that area is cleaned well. But it's not something that I don't work a bunch of things into it. As you saw, we did a pretty light facial today, in the just helping with the hydration of the skin, helping improve the little ruddiness of it with the flavonoids, hydrating it, masking it, doing some extractions. mild exfoliant, which was a purifying mask, has a papaya enzyme, but this was something that was, needed for today. So I think that, for a lot of guys, if they have ingrown hairs, they have pustules, it's an area that really needs to be worked on, and especially for guys on their neck area, if they have a lot of, infection and they have ingrown hairs, which is very common. Especially in African Americans, of course, with the curly hair. So that area does require deeper exfoliation. It requires a little bit of a different treatment, certainly. But on Mike's skin here today, his skin is really clean and very clean underneath his beard. It's also not irritated. It's a really nice, healthy skin under there. His areas of concern are more the areas that are open to the environment, and that's where he gets a little rosacea, and which was what we were just sort of cooling and calming. But I think that's probably more to answer your question. There's nothing wrong with doing more in the beard. You totally could do that, but it was not what I was doing today. Okay, next question. How do you feel about certain, sorry, my eyes are a little, certain machines like the hydrofacial or something like that? Okay, well, hydrofacial I think is a nice facial if you're working on somebody that's skin is really tight and thickened, and especially if you're working like on a guy's beard, you could certainly use it in that area, as long as you're sort of moving the head, holding the skin really tight, and you're maneuvering the head in a way where the skin is tight on that area. Because the things about suction devices is they stretch the skin. A lot of younger people, you have no problem with a younger skin, but when you get older, you don't want to be doing things like cupping on the face, especially around the eye area. People that have suffered with allergies and have had puffiness, where they've had a lot of lymphatic buildup under the eye area, you end up with loose skin. And so it's very important that you're aware of what you're doing, and you have to be mindful of a lot of things when you are working on the face. You as an esthetician need to really understand and be able to analyze your client's skin correctly. And sometimes hydrofacials are great, but they're not that great. They're only, like, why would you be doing a hydrofacial? Like ask yourself why, because each treatment you do on your client, it has to have a purpose on your client's skin. So right now I'm going to turn off the infrared lamp. As I said, I just want to leave it on for a short while that was on here now. I just really love infrared. It's so healing on the skin. So that being said, the hydrofacial has a purpose, but you've got to know why you're doing it on a client. Like, there has to be a reason. You're not just doing it to do it. If I asked you, well, why would you be doing a hydrofacial on your client's skin, I would expect that you would be able to say, well, narrator, I'm doing it because of blah blah. I don't do hydrofacials. I don't really think they're necessarily great. I think oxygen is great in ways, but hydrofacials, I just sort of, there's a lot of gimmicky things out there that sound good, but there's if you're given an hour to do a facial, I'm always going to have my hands on my client, whether I'm massaging their skin, I'm extracting their skin. To me, that's where there's value in what I'm doing, and it's also how I get results with what I do. So I think that you have to, you've got to know your why. And so I would say to you, what do you understand hydrofacials to be, and how do you understand them to have great purpose for you? I think that's a big question that you need to be able to answer. Okay, let me have a look at another question here. What is the best treatment for the surface of a surface dryness with, sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm reading sideways here, an aged skin. Okay, sorry about that. It's just the way the light is in the camera that it's hard to read, and the print's so small. So, well, with surface dryness, this is what I just did on Instagram. If you go to Instagram and you look at what I've done the last 2 weeks, it was tips every day on, a surface dryness is what we call something that is a subcondition, and it compromises the skin. So when you have surface dryness, you've got to change out your products, because you can't control the weather, but you can control what you put on your face. And that means that your cleanser needs to be a gentle, mild, gentle cleanser that goes on the skin. You also need to make sure that you're using products that are a little bit more occlusive and that offer more protection on the face. That's really important. So these are the things that are important when you're talking about surface dryness. You don't want to be very careful with your acids or your retinoids. You want to make sure that your products that you put on your face have got some stick, and that it allows for protection of the environment. So a lot of people, they don't use much on their face and they wonder why their skin is dry, or they use a very light moisturizer when they have, a really sort of thickened, damaged, dry skin. So it's important to be mindful of what you're using on your client, what your client's using at home, and it's seasonally, you need to change up the products to support the season. So these things are really important. But surface dryness is, number one, it's just not using the right products. Number two, the environment adds to it. But if you've got the right products on your skin, then you should be able to go out in the cold and the wind and still not have surface dryness, because you are protecting your skin. So if you want to learn about subconditions, and go back on the compromised skin barrier, do watch my YouTube, what we've done the last 2 weeks. And if you want to know more in depth about this, you can absolutely go to the 5-Star Method, which is my training course, which is all these elements in a much more grander scale, and with all webinars and different things to support that. So that being said, you're very welcome. And we are going to now move on over. I'm going to start to now take off this here, what we have on. We're going to remove the gauze, and we are going to be going ahead. Now we have this gauze on again because we did not want this clay mask to dry tight. So we have had the gauze on, so it's kept the mask a little bit soft. It's allowed it not to be too dry, which is really important when you are dealing with someone that has a more delicate, sensitive skin. So we've got warm towels. I'm going to cool these down here, and we are going to be using these. Now, some ingredients that you can use in a moisturizer for a more delicate, sensitive skin are going to be ingredients such as mulberry extract. Glycerin is very nice for delicate skins. Allantoin, hyaluronic acid, your flavonoids, your arnica, your vitamin K, your vitamin P, mulberry extract. I may have said that one already. Shea butter. These are very nice ingredients that can really help support, hydrate, and squalene's even really nice and gentle on the skin. Okay, so we've got that off. The next thing that's going on the face again is my healing gel. And again, mostly aloe vera, just very soothing, calming. We have a very nice, clean, hydrated skin here. And I'm going to be putting a little bit of the Y moisturizer on. And that's the moisturizer I'm going to be using on my model today, which is this one here. Now we had a little eye gel on underneath the eye mask, so I'm not going to double up. We've done some nice applications with his eye area, so he's in good shape with that. What we do want to do, we want to put a little bit of sunscreen on him as he's going to be, it's middle of the day, and even though he's wearing a helmet, we do want to put a little sunscreen on. I'm going to use just a little bit of the powder sunscreen on my model today, which is the La Belladonna powder. I'm going to use, the color I'm going to use is going to be, I think I'm going to go with the Nicoletta. We're going to try that one. Now this powder is an SPF, it's an SPF 50. And I'm going to just put a little bit on here with some cotton. I just want to do a little bit around these protected areas, and this is my La Belladonna over here. So we're using a little bit of the powder and brush that into the lid. Okay, we're just going to put a little bit on areas that might get a little bit of sun, isn't covered in the helmet. Bear with me here just while I get a little bit more of this onto my, I don't use brushes on clients because again it requires the cleaning of each brush, and I don't do that. I prefer to use disposable, so I use cotton, and I'm just removing the cap so I can get more of it on my cotton pad right now. I'm just going to be some areas that are not going to be fully covered with his helmet are going to be the nose and the cheeks. So we just want to make sure we've got some good coverage on that area there to really help protect that. And as I said, I'm just using some cotton here to put that on the skin. Okay, and the nice thing about the powder, there's only 4 ingredients in it. It's a physical block. It's very gentle on the skin, and sometimes that's just necessary when you don't want to do too much to the skin. So okay, that is Nicoletta, the color that I've used on my model here today. And that's going to just really help protect his skin, just those areas that the sun can grab once he's out riding around on his motorbike. So that's great. We've protected the skin there. I'm going to put a little bit of a lip balm on the skin now also. That's going to be another important part, because the lips get dry when you are having a facial. Sometimes just the masks. So we're just putting a little bit of a lip balm here on the skin, here on the lips. There we go. And we are all good. So guys, thank you so much for being on here today on this live model. Thank you so much. It's so great to see you. And we'll just bring this on over here. I will scoot down, say goodbye to everybody. We've had over 1,000 views on here while we've been on, which is wonderful to have everybody here. Thank you so much for being here. I'll be back to see you all again really soon. Thank you, Mike. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.